All right, so today we're going to tackle a really big idea, something that gets a lot of us stuck. We're talking about the myth of the perfect start. You know the feeling, right? That little voice that says, our lives would be so much better if only our beginning had been different. But what if that whole idea isn't just wrong? What if it's actually a cage that we're building for ourselves? So let's just start with the question that I think everybody feels deep down at some point. Why does your past have so much power over you? Seriously, why can something that happened years, maybe even decades ago, still feel like it's calling the shots today? It feels like this anchor, doesn't it? Just this heavy weight we're dragging around that keeps us from really, truly moving forward. Well, the thinking behind this explainer offers a pretty powerful answer. The past has all this power because we want our suffering to come with a receipt. Yeah, a receipt. Like a clear, itemized bill that explains exactly what went wrong, who's to blame, and why we get to be the way we are. It kind of frames our pain like a transaction. This bad thing happened to me, so I am entitled to this excuse for my life right now. This one metaphor, this idea of a receipt, is the key to unlocking this entire thing. And if we're looking for that receipt, where do most of us go digging for it? Come on, you know the answer. We look to our childhood. And this becomes the ultimate alibi. It's a story that feels like an explanation, but a lot of the time, it's really just functioning as an excuse. I mean, these alibis, they sound incredibly familiar, right? We've all heard them, we've probably all used them, and they come from a place of real pain. My father was absent, my mother was critical, my childhood was unstable. And look, these things are often very true and very legitimate sources of pain. But the argument here is that we start using them as more than just explanations. They become our get-out-of-jail-free cards. The story of our past becomes a full stop, an endpoint that justifies why we're stuck now, instead of being the starting point for building our future. But here's the thing about an alibi. It only works if the story of where we came from is also the story of where we're going. So we really have to ask, is it? This is where we have to draw a super important line in the sand, the line between our origin and our destiny. And let's be totally clear, this is not about denying reality, not at all. Fields like attachment theory, trauma studies, they absolutely prove the past shapes us. It creates our tendencies, our patterns. But here is the crucial distinction. Psychology describes an influence, not a prophecy. It gives you a map of where your journey began, but it absolutely does not write your final destination for you. The past might explain how a vase got cracked, for sure, but it doesn't decree that it has to stay in pieces forever. This quote from the Jungian analyst James Hollis just nails the whole shift in perspective. We are not what happened to us. We are what we do with what happened to us. See what that does? It completely reframes our identity. We go from being this passive thing, just a collection of stuff that happened in the past, to being an active creator. The facts of the past, yeah, they're fixed, but our response to them, the meaning we build from that raw material of our experience, that power is all ours, right here, right now. Okay, but if we really have this power, if we can really create our own meaning, why is it so incredibly tempting to just give it away? Well, the answer gets a little philosophical. Turns out, there's a strange, almost seductive comfort that we find in blame. So there was this philosopher, Søren Kierkegaard, and he argued that what we're really afraid of is our own freedom. He believed that the sheer weight of absolute choice, of being totally responsible for creating our own meaning in the world, was terrifying. He called it the dizziness of freedom. And so we run away from it. We flee toward these ready-made explanations, like blaming our past, because honestly, it's just a simpler, less demanding story for our lives. And then you've got Friedrich Nietzsche, who took an even tougher stance. He saw this constant looking backward, this resentment, as a kind of poison, a strategy used by people who define themselves by their injuries. The strong, Nietzsche argued, do something completely different. They don't ignore their pain, they transform it. They use hardship and suffering as fuel, as the very raw material they need to build a powerful self. For them, pain isn't a life sentence, it's a creative force. And finally, the existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre comes in and delivers the knockout punch with this statement that is just mercilessly clear. Freedom is what you do with what has been done to you. He's not denying that things are done to us. He gets that. But he is relentlessly insisting that our freedom is found in our response. The world deals us a hand, but we are the ones who decide what that hand is going to mean. So, what's the modern result of all this blame? We risk turning our trauma into our brand identity. Our wounds become our defining feature, the headline of our life story. We become known, even to ourselves, not for what we've built or what we love, but for how we were broken. And it's a tragic switch, right? We build our entire sense of self on the damage instead of on the repair. All of this, the alibi, the blame, that trauma identity, it all builds the bars of a prison. And that prison is the central metaphor for this entire idea, the unlocked cage. Now, to really understand this prison, we need a little concept from the psychologist Carl Jung. He called it the shadow. The shadow is basically all the parts of ourselves we decide are unacceptable, our rage, our shame, our deepest pains. We try to push them away, to lock them up in our unconscious. But here's the catch. Anything you refuse to deal with in the light doesn't just go away. It just gets more and more power over you from the darkness. So this is the little game we play with ourselves. Jung had this amazing warning. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. We call it fate. Oh, I'm just wired this way, or I always mess things up. But what's really happening is avoidance. We are refusing to face the parts of our own history, our own psyche, that are actually pulling the strings. We mistake our refusal to look for a destiny we can't change. So we sit in this prison we've built from our own story, rattling the bars, complaining about how we're trapped. And this is the crucial point. The cruel, almost funny irony of the whole situation is that the cage was never locked. The door has been wide open this entire time. We are the ones holding it shut, terrified of the responsibility that comes with actually stepping outside. Okay, so if the cage is unlocked, how in the world do we finally walk out? The answer isn't buried in the past. It's in the only place we have any real power, right here, in the now. This profound idea comes from Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. He realized that no matter what is forced on us, even the absolute horrors of a concentration camp, there is always a little space, a pause before we respond. And in that tiny space, that is where our ultimate freedom lives, the power to choose our response. And if Frankl could find that space under the most extreme conditions you can imagine, then we can for sure find it in our own lives. And this brings us to the core thesis, the main idea of this whole explainer. The real prison is not your past. The events themselves, they're over. The real, active, present-day prison is the story you keep telling yourself about your past. It's the narrative you use to justify your fears, your inaction, the story that convinces you to keep holding that unlocked door shut. So what does it take to leave the cage? It's not some complicated 10-step plan. You don't need years of prep. It takes just one thing, one step. You simply have to stop pretending the cage is locked from the outside. You have to admit, even if it's just to yourself, that you're the one with your hand on the door. That one single honest admission. It changes everything. And so here we are right back at this liberating and, demanding truth. You are not what happened to you. That's just a historical record. Your identity, who you are, is forged in the answer to a totally different question. What will you do with what happened? Your identity is a verb. It's an action right now, not a noun stuck in the past. We spend so much time and energy mourning a perfect start that was never, ever an option. For anyone, it's a ghost. It's not real. But the messy, complicated, imperfect present, that is profoundly real. It is always here, and it is always waiting for you. So the only question left, the only one that really matters is, what are you going to do with it?